In this video, we're going to talk about how to create listings on eBay that sell. And these tips are really going to help your product stand out from your competitors. And that's important because when your potential customer does a search on eBay and they see 10 or 20 products similar to yours, if you don't have these characteristics that make your listing stand out, it's very unlikely that they'll click on your listing above your competitors. So the first most important thing is the headline. So like I mentioned, when someone does a search on eBay for your product, there are likely to be 10 or 20 competitors with similar products. And the only thing that makes your product any different than another product is your headline, which is otherwise known as your product title. And that's the first thing that your potential customer sees when they see your listing. So in the headline, it's very important to describe as much as you possibly can. And that's because you want to make it as descriptive as possible. And the more information you have, the more likely you are to say something that'll attract your potential customer's attention and interest. So for example, when I was on eBay, I sold men's titanium magnetic bracelets. And instead of saying titanium magnetic bracelet, I would always make my headline much more descriptive. So it'd be best men's titanium magnetic bracelet, 3000 Gauss, and other features that the bracelet had. And the important thing here is, if I just said titanium magnetic bracelet, they're going to see my bracelet along with 15 other bracelets that are also called or have titanium magnetic bracelet in the title. So it's very important that I added those extra words to differentiate my product from the competition. The next thing that's important in the headline is if it applies to your product, you want to include the gender that your product is intended for. So for example, when I was selling a titanium bracelet, I would always put men's titanium bracelet. And that's because the product I was selling was targeted towards men. And men don't want to buy a jewelry product if they're not sure that it's designed for men. So by including that in the title, I made my potential customers much more likely to choose my listing and confident that it was designed for them. Now, this only applies if your product is designed for a certain gender. So most jewelry products are, but if you're selling any other type of product that's not specific to a certain gender, then don't worry about including the gender in your headline or product title. Now, the next thing I found after doing this for a while was I was testing my listings, and I found the listings that started off with the word best seemed to sell the most. So it sounds like a really random thing, but it's worked well for me and I've had a lot of success because of it. So most of my listings after doing this testing, I would start off with best. So it would be best men's titanium magnetic bracelet. So that's something you can try and test with your products and see if it helps. I think it will. Next up in your headline, it's very important to include a unique quality to your product. So like I said earlier, when someone searches for your product on eBay, they're likely to see 10 or 15 very similar products. And it's important that you include something that's very unique to your product that makes your product stand out from your competition. So this is really specific to the type of product that you're selling, but almost any product has something unique about it. So spend time thinking about what makes your product unique and make sure to include it in your product title. And finally, it's very important that you test. And that's because the headline or product title that you think will be most effective might actually not be as effective as it could be. The only way to know for sure is to try putting up listings with different product titles and seeing which ones sell the most. And a great example of how effective testing can be is I had no idea that putting the word best in front of my listings would increase my sales. But luckily I was testing my listings, and once I realized that, I started putting it in all my listing titles, and I generated many more sales. So there's a lot of important things you can discover when you test that ultimately leads to you making more money and profit. The next thing to make your eBay listing stand out is your description. So this is important once your potential customer saw your product title and they were curious and interested enough to click on it and learn more. In your description, it's very important that you speak in terms of your customer benefits. So you don't want to talk about how great your product is. You want to talk about how your product makes the lives of your potential customers better. And one easy way to do this is to include you in a lot of your descriptions. So for example, with the bracelet, you will love how this bracelet feels on your hand. Instead of saying this is a soft bracelet or a comfortable bracelet, I'm specifically saying you as a potential customer will love this bracelet. So use that when you describe your own products that you're selling on eBay. The next thing is to focus on the unique aspects of your product. And this is a very common term used in business called USP. And USP stands for Unique Selling Proposition. And it's just a fancy way of saying what's unique about your product or service. And this is something we went over with the product title, but it's also important to bring up this USP throughout your product description. Next, you want to mention that there are very easy returns. That's because when someone buys a product from you, they don't want to take on a lot of risk. If they're taking on a lot of risk, then they're likely to go to one of your competitors that offers a better return policy. So you always want to mention that if your customer is not satisfied with your product, it's very easy to get a refund. And finally, just like the product title, you want to test. And that's because testing is the best way to see what works and what doesn't. Now, there's no right way to test, but if you put up multiple listings and just write it on a piece of paper or an Excel chart, then you'll notice which listing descriptions lead to products that sell more often. And finally, what's important to make your eBay listing stand out is price. And that's because eBay is a very price-sensitive market. And what that means is the main determining factor of whether your potential customer buys your product or a competitor's is which is the lowest cost. And that's not true for all marketplaces, but just the way eBay is set up is the price makes a huge difference. So one thing that makes your price more attractive is to include free shipping. So I get a lot of questions of, should I make my product $40 with free shipping or $35 with $5 shipping? So even though the customer pays the same regardless, you want to do the free shipping option. And that's because it looks much more attractive to your potential customers. So just include your shipping cost in your product cost and offer free shipping. And that's something I've discovered through testing. So that's another reason why you should test everything. But without a doubt, the free shipping option led to many more sales. The next thing that I found to be successful is always end your price in 95 cents. And there's a lot of psychological reasons behind that, which you don't have to worry about. It's very easy to do, and there's no reason not to. So, for example, instead of pricing your item at $5, you could sell it at $4.95. And lastly, just because eBay is such a price-sensitive market, you want to match your competitors' pricing. So if you're selling a product that's very similar or the same as your competitors, you want to make sure that your price is competitive as well.